All right, good afternoon. I want to call the September 12, 2019 meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council to order at 2 p.m. Machine is open for a roll call. Let the record reflect that all 9 council members are present. Hold on. All right, if you could, let's cue in if you have any deferrals or withdrawals, please. Mr. Russo?
Yes, at this time, I'd like to withdraw number 9A1, and I will reintroduce something on that matter. And I will also defer 9AC, which is regard to the ferries, until Mr. Lapine is back and we can work on this.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Key in, please. Just go ahead and key in. Mr. Dubar?
9E.
Defer to withdrawn.
Oh, defer, I'm sorry.
Is that all? Mr. Kardovich?
I'm going to just offer it for discussion, 9B.
Okay. All right, with no one else, let's move to item 3A, please. We have no roll call, no executive session.
A proclamation declaring October 2019 as Dysautonomia Awareness Month in the parish of Plaquemines.
All right, I'll offer to ask for a second. We have a unanimous second. With no objection, we have a unanimous second. Ms. Marcotte?
A proclamation declaring October 2019 as Dysautonomia Month, Awareness Month in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas dysautonomia refers to a spectrum of neurological disorders that involve the autonomic nervous system, and whereas symptoms may affect every system in the body, they are unpredictable and can be debilitating at times or permanently disabling to some. And whereas these disorders affect children, teens, and adults, and there are over 70 million people in the world are living with one or more forms of dysautonomia, and whereas there is currently no cure but ongoing research is offering hope for better understanding and new treatment options. And whereas associations such as Dysautonomia Louisiana are here to pave the way and to cast a light on the vast darkness that comes with being diagnosed with a chronic illness or invisible disease like dysautonomia. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, W. Bo Black, and by concurrence of the parish president, Kirk M. Lapine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares October 2019 as Dysautonomia Awareness Month in the parish of Plaquemines.
All right, thank you. I'll tell you what, we'll put it up for a vote first, and then we'll open it up. Machine's open. It passes 9-0. I think we have a speaker. Yeah, come on up, please, and just introduce yourself. And on behalf of the council, I want to thank you for your attendance today. I know that Governor Edwards has declared October is the month, as well as this all around the world. So appreciate it, and open it up for your presentation.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Carmen Gonzalez. I'm from Tangipahoa Parish, born and raised in St. Bernard Parish, and always lived in South Louisiana. And I want to say thank you guys for adopting Dysautonomia Month in Plaquemines Parish. I guess you're wondering why I'm here as an individual to ask you guys for a proclamation. I had a young lady by the name of Tara Jean, which is a resident of your parish. Her 16-year-old son was diagnosed with dysautonomia. Dysautonomia is a neurological condition. It's a section of your brain that controls the things we can't think to control, which would be heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, bone marrow production, temperature control, life flight mechanism, adrenaline, things like that. And when you have dysautonomia, the communication system and all those major bodily functions don't function correctly. So therefore, you may have a really high heart rate or a really low heart rate. You may have a really high blood pressure or a really low blood pressure. And that's all fine when you have one or the other. But when you have a high heart rate and a low blood pressure, your brain automatically wants to shut down and you pass out cold. So we get that dizzy, gonna pass out feeling every time we change positions, which is really hard to deal with. Also, your kidneys automatically produce a hormone which goes to your bone marrow system to tell your body to produce bone marrow. Well, the communication system's broken, so therefore your bone marrow system don't produce what your body needs in order to function to have a full level of blood volume. Therefore, we have to do infusions. In my particular case, I've been with a career-driven person, probably about 17 years. I worked for Subway corporate, I worked for Burger King corporate, and I also worked inside of New Orleans building and renovating historical restoration after Katrina. One Sunday morning, woke up, take a shower, put my hands above my head to wash my hair, passed out cold, fell on my face, broke my jaw, knocked my teeth out my mouth. They told me I had a heart problem. Okay, let's fix it so I can get back with life. 28 trips to the hospital, 4 heart surgeries later, 1 life flight, still cannot figure out what the problem is. So I had been into several hospitals in and around the Louisiana area, went to Houston for second opinions. They finally said, look, we think you've got some kind of dysautonomia. It's like, okay, what's that? They sent me to Vanderbilt University. Vanderbilt University had me in there one day, gave me a diagnosis, came home. Within about 18 months, I'm back to functioning again. I can stand up, I can walk, I can talk, I don't fall down when my heart rate's not 230. Now, they did do a pacemaker defibrillator, and they disconnected the brain from the heart, so this way, my communication's not all screwed up. But we've got a 16-year-old in this parish who's struggling with that after a football injury. Sometimes dysautonomia is caused by concussions or trauma to the head. Sometimes we're born with it. Sometimes it circles with things like lupus, multiple sclerosis. It could be caused by Lyme disease, and it happens to all ages. Right now, 1 in every 100 teens are being diagnosed with some sort of dysautonomia. There's 15 different forms. When I first was diagnosed with dysautonomia 8, 9 years ago, I was able to find 8 people in the state of Louisiana and thought, I can't do this by myself, and there's no possible way that the next person needs to go 5 years without a diagnosis. So I swore that if I got off that front porch, while I sat on that front porch, coming out of construction, I whittled the state of Louisiana. I have been to 26 different parishes. We bring in medical professionals to educate, continuing education for doctors across the state. We do education on awareness days in Ochsner's Hospital, St. Tammany Hospital. We do patient care support groups, so these people don't have to struggle by themselves. The reason I'm here today is to accept this proclamation on behalf of Nicholas and his mom, Tara, who are struggling in your parish, and ask that you invite me over to any health fairs or hospitals or anything that you have, clinics, that we could spread awareness about dysautonomia so people can get a diagnosis just a tad bit quicker and get back with life instead of living this debilitating condition that has touched so many people throughout Louisiana.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Bartholomew?
You also
So
have,
much meaningful that we have someone concerned about people
thank you.
and trying to make a difference, and you are making a difference.
Yes.
But my main question, do any of our hospitals familiar with that now? Being
We-
able
we-
to address it quickly, rapidly?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We are in and out of Ochsner's Hospital on Jefferson Highway. We also have a doctor who picked it up about 6 years ago, so he specializes in it. He's on the North Shore. The young man who was just admitted into Children's Hospital, in fact, they're there today, being admitted for the 4th time in 6 weeks. He's in the hospital. Called me. I called that doctor. That doctor is now called in Children's Hospital to tell them how to handle his dysautonomia issues. So yes, we're in and out of hospitals. We just can't get it done fast enough.
So the adults will have to go to Ochsner on Jefferson Highway.
Ochsner's on Jefferson Highway or Dr. Patel in St. Tammany would be a place to get a diagnosis.
Do we have a news reporter in the audience today? Can you take that info and print it out in the paper, please?
That
I
would
think
be
we need to know
fabulous.
that.
Last year, Channel 8 picked up on it and did a segment. Nick Fole one of the quarterbacks for, come on, somebody help me with football. You know Nick Foles. His wife has dysautonomia, and they were going to do a story with Nick Foles and his wife. Well, they picked it up in Louisiana. Kim Holden did a story. It's on our social media site. You can go see that Channel 8 did a nice segment for us, so we got some awareness. But I would appreciate it in a newspaper.
And maybe John can organize it to go to our meeting preview on cable.
Oh, that would be great.
Send it out, put the information. It's very important because that's something very special.
I can't imagine to
that
tell
we didn't
you.
even know what would be going on to people, and all of a sudden people are dying from that.
Well, and this is the thing.
sickness.
It caused things like, for instance, I'm going to give you a supraventricular tachycardia, which is a heart rate over 190.
That's me.
Mine's would be 230. My defibrillator would go off, and I'd get up to walk away. It would go off again. So all I could do was lie down and wait for someone to come and get me. But my blood pressure would plummet down into 60 over 30s. And then you're thinking, okay, the life flight me, I'm not going to make it. But how many times am I going to do this before we get a diagnosis? It was awful.
Again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate y'all's.
Mr. Kainovich?
I'd like to thank you for all you're doing, and if I'd have knew about this last month, we could have got you in on the donations we gave back from the rodeo.
Well, don't forget us next year.
If you want to put a table in and hand out pamphlets at it next
Absolutely,
year.
absolutely. You guys know your parish. I went to St. Mary Parish yesterday, and while I was there, they said, oh, we have a health fair on October the 4th. Come on out. So we signed ourselves up, and we're going to be out there doing a health fair. So anything that you guys have going on in your parish, you know it better than me. I can only search so much trying to figure out what you got going on, but pick up the phone. I think my brochure was passed out with my contact information. Please feel free to give me a buzz and let us know what you have going on, that we could participate and tell our story and share some more knowledge.
You could put it on your calendar the first weekend in August. I'll have a table set up for you.
Oh, thank you so very much. I appreciate that. I'll make sure to send you a message to remind me, to remind you.
Thank you so much. And one last question. Can I ask you, on your widow, what
Yes.
does the blue mean?
Turquoise is dysautonomia color, and those are the parishes that I have been to do educational and awareness events throughout. My goal, my last bucket wish, is to get all 64 parishes turquoise, so I can go back and sit and retire on my porch,
Hopefully
because
get
I want to.
hopefully get your painting ready, you can paint us.
I'm going to paint you. Look, you're the last ones down in the south. But every like July, August, I write all 64 parishes, and now I'm down to just these few. So I do appreciate y'all helping paint our state turquoise and create awareness. And we will be in and out of your parish, and we're not going to let Nick suffer alone.
Thanks. Well, I went to high school with Tara, so I know, yeah.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, bring that around, we'll take a photograph.
Sure, that would be great.
You want to do it up here? Let's try it up here. Let's stay up here. Do it up here, sir. A little different.
You want to all get close to the seal?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yes, we can do that.
It's hard to say, it's hard to live. No big deal.
Come stand in the front, and if you're,
Anybody? Well, just right here.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks. All right, thanks a lot. Here you go. Here's your proclamation, go.
Yes, I'm actually taking a message to the hospital to Nick.
All right,
Young boy.
yeah.
And good luck with everything. Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to skip around a little bit. If we go to item 5A, please.
Bids and advertisements. 5A, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing SCADA equipment for a period of 1 year for use by the Water and Sewage Department.
I'll offer. Ms., well, go ahead.
Due advertisement, bids were received September 3rd, 2019, for furnishing SCADA equipment for a period of 1 year for use for the Water and Sewage Department from Prom Controls out of Metairie, Louisiana. It's my recommendation to accept the only bid of Prom Controls.
All right, thank you. I'll offer X for a second. Mr. Albro seconds. Any questions or comments from the table, from the audience? All right, with none, machine is open. Passes 9-0. 5B, please.
A resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to advertise for and dispose of a 14 by 80 serial number 1180379 on an as-is whereas basis to be moved by the buyer within 30 days of sale, located at 28028 Highway 23 in Port Sulphur, through public/internet auction conducted by Henderson Auctions.
That's it. All right, any questions? I'll offer X for a second. Mr. Albro, any questions or comments from the table?
No, sir, they're going to come take the pictures of it and put it on online auction.
Any questions or comments from the table further? From the audience? All right, with the machine is open.
Councilmember Blank. Thank you.
It passes 9-0. You done, Miss? You good? All right, yeah, no problem. All right, go to item 4, status report by the parish president. Ms. Taylor, is there any report? None? Okay, and before we get to 4, well, let's do 4A. 1, directors, any comments on 4A1 or 2? Charter directors? All right, Mr. Russo?
Yeah, I had sent you that email. I wanted you to update a little bit on the water meter situation for the public's benefit. I know we get to read your reports, and I appreciate them. They're very thorough, but the people that are outside of that email chain don't know what's going on, so that's why I asked if you would mind, because we've had some complaints in the water department on estimation of meter readers, so you don't mind, would you share that?
Yeah, so the new electronic water meter program is moving along. There's been just over 700 meters changed out since beginning in May, primarily in the area of Cedar Drive south to Myrtle Grove. On August 22nd, there was a data training system with the clerks who are going to be accessing the program and using it and reading it on a regular basis. On September 6th, we had a field training program to train the people that are actually out in the field on how to service the meters, how to change the meters out, and how to use the handheld electronic readers in those areas. Also training them how to troubleshoot problems and things that may have, when they have issues with meters communicating with the system. Clerks can now pull up the accounts that have been changed and view usage on those accounts hour by hour to help customers identify where water usage goes up and down. We're also able to identify high usage through alerts, and so far it's been beneficial. We've been able to look at people that have questioned usage in certain areas. We can tell them your meter's using water all night long, or you've got high usage at a certain time of the day, and it's been beneficial for our customers so far. Hopefully, we'll get the rest of them changed out here shortly.
Following up on that, we anticipated this over a 3-year period. Do you think that we will be able to speed the process up somewhat to be able to do a third, and a third?
I think that's attainable, yes, sir. I think we'll finish the first phase before the end of the year this year. We'll start working on the second phase early next year, and then the following year we'll have the third phase in, and that'll take care of about 9,000 accounts that we have in the parish.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Newberry.
Mr. Napoli, does the software shoot out the alarm in the system when the water if they have a water pipe busted or something like that? You said it shows a high water intake on that address. Does it show an alarm or something, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the system is designed to where there's parameters set. So there's a high usage alarm, and then there's a leak alarm. So a leak alarm may be where the meter uses 10 gallons of water every hour all night long. And it'll say, hey, there's a leak alarm. Please have that customer notified. They need to check for a leak. There may be a high usage alarm where, if there's actually a pipe breaking and it uses 2,000 gallons in an hour. So those alerts will come to the computer. When the clerks log in, the alerts pop up. They'll click on alerts, and it'll say what addresses have alerts, and they'll be able to click on the alert and say, this is what the alert is for this address. And then contact the customer and say, you may have an issue. This is what we saw.
That's good to know. And another question is, when our own parish has a leak, do we have an alarm that sets off for that also? At the end, when it's all over with?
On our main lines, these meters wouldn't detect that because we're coming off the main line. The only time that the meters would help us detect something like that is it's got a dry meter function. So if there's actually no water at all going to these electronic meters, it will alert us and say we have no water in this area at all. And that would tell us that the water main has no water in it. But I don't know that we'll ever get to that point.
Mr. Koknovich?
I just wanted to let the public know about the auditorium air conditioning that is on back order.
So to elaborate on that, we issued the PO to the contractor who's going to fix the air conditioner at the Beers Auditorium. He ordered the equipment, told me the equipment would be 2 to 4 weeks, then 4 to 6 weeks. Finally called him yesterday and said, I have to have a completion date. He sent me an email, I got it this morning, saying that the equipment would not be completed until November 11th, and delivery date would not be until 5 to 7 days after that. So we're looking at the end of November before Beers Auditorium is repaired.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I have two little questions. One is the water in Braithwaite line, the one we appropriated that $100,000 for. Where we are with that? A couple of months ago.
I don't know. I'll have to follow up and find out.
The council passed a resolution and appropriated the funds, and it was a grant that was awarded.
Yes, sir.
And the people still complaining on the northern end. 'Cause
Yes, sir.
Every time I'm sorry?
It's to fix a section of line in English Turn, is that correct?
Yes, I think that's English then. I'm not
Yes,
quite
yes,
sure.
sir.
But anyway, on the northern end, whenever we go 50 or above, it blows the line. The line is rotten. It can't stand no pressure. But anyway, it's been several months, and I hadn't heard anything. Where we are with the air conditioning at Percy Griffin Center.
I'll get you an answer on the water line.
Okay.
I sent the email to you yesterday with the air conditioner at the Percy Griffin Center. Parts are scheduled to be delivered on October 2nd. Contractor will be on site within a few days of parts being delivered and should have it done within a few days.
I don't read my emails every day right now. I'm tired.
Okay.
Very busy.
Yes, sir.
I have a commitment that I have to be responsible to. So I don't go through those things every day.
Okay.
And then I don't have an office either. My office, where I keep all my stuff at the event, I can't go in there, so I can't read it. Get on my computer over there. So I'm just letting you know that's part of the problem with that. Because I usually do it late at night. And being in the courthouse, I can't go to the courthouse because of the sensitive stuff down there. I don't want to go and jam no records and burn no courthouse down. Get charged for burning the courthouse down. But anyway, I just can't do it right now. Constantly doing it. And the other thing I'm very much concerned about is the Point LaHange area fire rating. And there were several things. You may not know about it because you just get in, but the chief of the fire department should advise you of that. We have a lot of problem with water pressure, and that gives us a negative. And we also don't have enough firemen to show up at fires all the time because I think it requires 4. and we only have 3 at that station, paid at that station. I'm assuming it's 3 all over. I'm not sure about all over the parish, but I know in Point LaHash, they only have 3 paid firemen at each shift, on each shift.
Yes, sir.
But whenever a fire breaks out, that's how we ran into trouble before, because we only have under 3 people to show up instead of a minimum of 4. So we will need to look into that, because we're still at a 10. And I don't know what the latest rating is, but water pressure was a problem. The fire hydrant was a problem. So I just don't know some of the problems, not just the main problems. But the main problem was the personnel. Was the main
Yes,
cause.
sir, it was.
So we need to correct those pressure things in that area as well. And now we're leading to 2-story buildings. That's another issue. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem.
I got with Superintendent Butcher on that issue.
Okay.
He's checked into the water issue. The pressure is not a problem, from what I'm told.
Well, you better check that, because they say that all the time. In that time.
Courthouse has a sprinkler system in it, so the courthouse is protected with the sprinkler system, and we have adequate pressure for that sprinkler system, because it's been tested that way. The fire rating in the Point LaHash Volunteer Fire Department is a problem, because a lot of it's got to do with record keeping and training. And the training records have not been submitted to say that they've done the adequate amount of training that they need to do. And the personnel issue, like you mentioned, is an issue, because we do not have the personnel to show up on a call.
The only problem I have with that's been going on over 10 years. So you wasn't there, I'm just saying that's an ongoing problem, which you just quoted. So something should have
Yes,
been
sir, I
happening.
agree.
Soon we jumped in, something should have been handled. We're trying to identify the problems and working towards that, because it seems as though it's not getting any better with that. And because some insurance companies don't want to even offer insurance fire protection in that area, in those areas, because of that. And one of the main concern was the sporting place in I can't think of the guy. It's right next to the prison, and it's Suburban Club. They're the main one complaining about that a lot, along with a couple other residents, that they can't get protected because of the rating is so high. But that's all I have right now. I have some more things that we'll discuss at the next meeting I'll bring up to you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. I want to tell the administration I really appreciate the effort that went in behind the scenes to get the Empire Park open and online. It's going to be a grand opening soon. It'll be next Friday, I believe, at 4 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Ice cream social down there. Again, thank y'all so much. There's been some other progress. Some ditches have been cleared at the Empire Shipyard, which allows the pump not to kick on and off repeatedly. That is a super, is a really great improvement there. It's going to make that equipment last a lot longer. And there's been some ditch clearing in Jessup Bend. I just thank y'all very, very much. And I have a question for you, Todd. It's maybe nuts and bolts, but the automated water meters. How are those calibrated? I've gotten like a $58,000 water bill out of one of those, and it was coming from a citrus grower. But is there, if those things are dropped on the ground or something like that, is there a way to get those right? How are those calibrated? And is there multiple sizes? Is there like a 3/4 and like a 2-inch, that kind of thing?
Yes, sir. There are multiple sizes. Most residential, just homes, would use a 3/4-inch meter. Mm-hmm. People in Jesuit Bend that have farms have 2-inch meters, 1.5 meters, those kind of things. The $58,000 water bill was a product of the company swapping out and changing to an electric meter, and they picked up a 2 instead of a 1 on the front of the dial, and we overcharged someone for 10 million gallons. That was fixed. It was adjusted. I went to the gentleman's house and spoke to him, and he's taken care of.
All right, thank y'all for y'all's prompt attention on that. I really appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
Ms. Newberry?
I'm sorry?
Oh, you must-
I'm sorry, no.
All right, any more questions or comments from the administration? From the table, from the audience? All right, with none, keeping up with administrative actions, Ms. Marcotte, if you would, item 10A3, please.
A resolution confirming the recommendation of the President of the Parish of Plaquemines for the designation of the Director of Department of Operations pursuant to Article 5, Section 5.01 of the Charter for Local Self-Government for the Parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So this is for a suspension of the rules. Go ahead and offer that now and then explain after. Offer for suspension. Second by Dr. Gui. Any questions or comments on the suspension? All right, with none, machine's open on the suspension. Suspension passes 9-0. Ms. Marcotte, would you reread it again, please?
A resolution confirming the recommendation of the President of the Parish of Plaquemines for the designation of the Director of the Department of Operations pursuant to Article 5, Section 5.01 of the Charter for Local Self-Government for the Parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gui. All right, so I got a phone call from the parish president earlier this week who asked me to suspend the rules on this particular recommendation. He has made some departmental changes within his administration, and for the sake of transparency, I wanted to get that out to the public and to the employees of the government as soon as possible. This particular resolution will be confirming his recommendation for a new director of operations, which is Mr. Scott Russo. The effective date would be September 30th. Yeah, I do have copies. Let me pass them. Sorry, Dr. Gui. Okay, I got it. Yeah, so I think the pay period ends a couple days prior, so the 30th is a Monday, so that gives a good 2-week transition period, I believe, for the current director, and if confirmed, Mr. Roussel to have a transition period. With that, I'll ask Mr. Roussel to come on up and get your first fires in. I'll say this, Mr. Russo, I'm not sure if I should congratulate you or yet or not, because that's a tough job. It's a job that I think a lot of our council members rely on very heavily, because that's the majority of the complaints and things that we get from a constituency, which all falls under your preview, which would be grass cutting, ditches, etc., engineering. So before I open the mic, I guess I'll open it up to the table for some questions or comments. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, you answered more or less because we're trying to ratify this today.
Yeah, I want to do it today. That way everybody in the government knows what's going on. That's the Director of Public Service. Any other questions or comments from the table?
Bless you, son.
Mr. LaFrance?
I got ditches need to be dug. I got grass need to be cut. Everybody does. And we're going to do the best job possible, sir.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, sir.
No, the other Mr. Russo.
Yeah, first of all, let me congratulate you, Scott. I know that,
Not yet.
well, for the appointment or the nomination, whatever comes first. The situation is that I know you've been here for many years. I know what you did during Hurricane Katrina and Rita. Y'all did an excellent job, and you know that the parish workforce stood up, and you were part of that leadership team that stood up. I think that you'll do a fine job here, and I would caution people to not to expect miracles because of the manpower situation that we've heard about over and over and over and over again. But I do think that you will do a good job. I just hope that solid waste doesn't suffer now, because I have very few complaints in the solid waste department. And I hope that you carry those skills over to the other departments that you will be supervising. And I think that we'll do a lot better if we all communicate those needs.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Newberry?
I also want to congratulate you on your appointed position. I think you'll do well, Scott. I just hope you get an opportunity. I know you have a lot underneath your umbrella to introduce yourself to everybody, you know, what you expect of them. So I hope that you give us the opportunity to speak with you on an individual basis of each district. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'm waiting for that email or phone call.
Be looking forward to it.
Mr. Kardovic?
I'd like to congratulate you too. It's gonna be kind of hard seeing you in a suit because I'm not
Yes.
comfortable in it
I
neither.
still wear my visor.
But I'm here to help you. If you need somebody cutting grass or digging ditches, I'm a phone call away.
I'll get your number.
Mr. Blank?
Same. I've got an open door, and I can send you the list.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody else has any questions or comments from the table, but if not, I'll end it with this. You know, I agree with Mr. Roussel, in that if you keep doing what you do and have done for many, many years in solid waste, you have no problem in this position.
I thank you, sir. I'd like to take this time to thank Parish President Kurt Lepine, his administration, and staff for the support and trust in me. We're going to do the best we can do. I'd also like to thank each one of the council members and the staff at Solid Waste. They said I was bailing out on them. I told them I'm not bailing out, I'm going to be here, you know. And for last of all, I'd like to thank my family, the love and support they give me for this opportunity to be the Director of Administration for the great parish of Plaquemines Parish. Operations. Operations, I'm sorry.
Let me check the paperwork, Crystal.
I'm sorry. A little nervous. I don't get up here much,
Well,
but we'll get used to it.
thank you. Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open. And it passes 9-0. Congratulations, Director Roussel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
You saying that now?
All right, beer liquor license, number 6, please cue in if you have any. Mr. Albro?
Yes, I have special events for Plaquemines Animal Welfare Society at the Bell Chase Auditorium on September 21st, 7 p.m. To host a fundraiser.
Mr. Blank?
It'll be beer and liquor license for the Jezebin Dollar General Store.
All right. Mr. LaFrance?
Special event, September the 6th. October the 18th or the 19th?
October 19th.
For October 19th at 6 p.m., 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's for the Breast Cancer Fishing Rodeo. Mark Bergeron at 104 Pleasant Ridge Drive.
Dr. Gooey?
I have a special event application liquor license for OLPH for their church fair, October 10, 11, 12. And I also have an application for license for the operation of charitable games or games of chance, raffles, bingo, keno, slide, all good Catholic games for Our Lady of Perpetual Help for the OLPH fair, October 10, 11, and 12.
All right, thank you. With none, ask for an offer. Offer from Mr. Kardovic, second from Mr. Blank. Any questions, comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open. It passes 9-0. Item 7A1, please.
Phillips 66 Alliance Refinery, application number 2019-544, dated August 12, 2019. Install 13 12-inch steel piles, 4 foundations, and 1 water inlet box, 15551 Highway 23, Belle Chase. Councilmember LaFrance.
LaFrance. LaFrance offers, ask for a second. Mr. Blink seconds. Any questions, comments from the table, from the audience? None, the machine is open. Passes 7-0, 2 abstentions from myself and Mr. Kagnovich. Anybody have any objection taking B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I in Globo? I think it's all trailer residences. Any objection? No objection, Ms. Marcotte. B through I, please.
B, Hummingbird Suite, Shop and Snowballs, Clarence Brock's, commercial business in an A2 zoning district, 16521 Highway 15, Davant. Councilmember Bartholomew. C, Hoskins Properties LLC, John Hoskin, trailer residence used as a commercial business, 32774 Highway 11, Buras, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink. D, Hoskin Properties LLC, John Hoskins, trailer residence used as a commercial business, 32782 Highway 11, Buras. Councilmember Blink. E, Hoskin Properties LLC, John Hoskin, trailer residence used as a commercial business, 32784 Highway 11, Buras. Councilmember Blink. F, Anthony Husey, new camp in a floodplain zoning district, 714 Martin Lane, Port Sulphur. Councilmember LaFrance. G, Harold Silv Jr., trailer residence in an R-1C zoning district, 188 East Tessie Lane, Port Sulphur. Councilmember LaFrance. H, Alex Saunier, trailer residence in an R-1C zoning district, 102 2nd Street, Port Sulphur. Councilmember LaFrance. I, Jewel Marlene Ruiz, RV trailer in a floodplain zoning district, 169 East Bayou Lane, Lake Hermitage. Councilmember LaFrance.
Offered by Councilmember LaFrance, ask for a second. Mr. Blink seconds. Any questions or comments from the audience, from the table? All right, with none, the machine is open. All items B through I. Passes 9-0. Mr. LaFrance. I'm sorry.
Paul Metcalf. In my office, I received several concerning phone calls about the temporary office space that's being built in a school zone. I think it's Paul Hogan. You familiar with it? And also a complaint this morning came in that they're on several people property. But the main concern was putting a temporary trailer space in a school zone where automobiles coming in and out. It was a safety issue.
I will certainly look into that, Councilman. I am aware of the complaint that came into our office about the placement of those trailers. Just as information, as you probably already know, those are our Army Corps of Engineer trailers. They are associated with the levee improvements there and that project. But if I think that the dispute as to whether or not the trailers are placed properly as far as whether or not they may be on somebody else's property, I'd have to check with the legal department. That may be a civil issue, and eminent domain with the federal government may come into play. But certainly, beyond that, I could check if there is an immediate public safety issue with that school zone. I will certainly check into that right away.
Right. I mean, because I know there's property would have been available several hundred yards to the north.
Okay.
On the River Road,
okay,
in which there is a ramp that's going up to the levee, because I'm more than sure they'd be using that ramp a lot. Okay. I think that would have been a more safer spot for them to use.
Okay. I was hoping maybe that Mr. Hogan might be able to make the meeting today when we got the first complaint, so he might be able to answer any of your concerns, Councilmember, because I knew this may come up. It was kind of late notice. I'm assuming he couldn't make it, but I will certainly look into your concerns.
Yeah, I know Mr. Paul Hogan, he had called me. I mean, I spoke to him, and he had informed me that they was planning on putting a office trailer there and which I was going to disagree about it because of it's going in a school zone. But however, it didn't come in front of the council.
Right. Well, I will check into it right away. As soon as returning to the office this afternoon, I'll make an effort to, again, contact Mr. Hogan, ask if he can come in and chat with us concerning the placement of the trailers.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, please cue in if you have any introductions of ordinances or resolutions. Mr. Blank.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 operating revenue and expenditures budgets to accept a donation from the Empire South Paws Tarpon Rodeo and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Thank you, Mr. Kognovich. A resolution to replace a member of the Coastal Zone Advisory Committee and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to approve a cooperative endeavor, LA Gov number 200426649 with the State of Louisiana Department of Natural Resources for the Plaquemines Parish Local Coastal Program implementation, and to authorize the execution of said agreement by the parish president and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to rescind, annul, set aside ordinance number 403, adopted December 8, 1982, rescind, annul, and set aside Section 6 and Section 7 of ordinance number 40, adopted April 9, 1964, established Article 6 to be titled Mosquito Control of Chapter 13 of the Plaquemines of the Parish Code of Ordinances, establish a user fee for mosquito control in order to continue to abate, control, eradicate, and study mosquitoes and other arthropods of public health importance and all activities incidental thereto and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance granting a subsurface servitude and right-of-way to Energy Equities Incorporated for the purpose of directionally drilling and operating one or more oil and gas wells under Plaquemines Parish Government's lands located in Section 51 of Township 20, Range 29 East, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to authorize the president of Plaquemines Parish Government to execute the subsurface agreement and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And I want to just stop right here. I didn't move on this last time because there's an ongoing drainage issue at that location, and if those ditches could be swept so those people could get some more relief before there's additional development there, that would be super key.
Mr. Kognovich.
An ordinance establishing an industrial development impact fee in the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of the Parish Code of Ordinances by enacting Section 7-6 to establish building permit fees, petroleum-related construction permit fees, establish a CPI fee escalation clause for said fees, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. That's it.
Mr. Russo.
Yes, I have a resolution making certain findings with respect to and authorizing the parish of Plaquemines, State of Louisiana, to incur debt and issue a revenue anticipation note in a principal amount not to exceed $7 million, approving the form of and authorizing the execution and delivery of the revenue anticipation note, authorizing the execution and delivery of other documents required in connection therewith, and authorizing the officers of said parish to do all things necessary in connection with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the revenue anticipation note. And I'd ask the administration to be prepared to discuss this at the next meeting, but as well, the refunding bonds that have not been signed yet. And we need to move on that before we lose the opportunity. So I would appreciate that y'all being prepared to talk about it at the next meeting.
Dr. Gouy.
Resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Government, represented by the parish president, to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, perfect, and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Plaquemines Parish Assessor's Office for the cost sharing of professional services for the collection of data and evaluation of certain oil and gas personal property located in Plaquemines Parish for the 2020 ad valorem tax year and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorized the parish president on behalf of Plaquemines Parish Council to certify to the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development that the Plaquemines Parish government has complied with all FHWA DOTD requirements for 2019 relative to bridges located in Plaquemines Parish under the Plaquemines Parish government's jurisdiction. An ordinance to amend the 2019 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, general fund, coastal zone, land department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 general fund manpower structure, flood control department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plans for appropriating $12,124,490 to the Plaquemines Housing Assistance Program from the Community Development Block Grant and Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 general fund operating expenditure budget, drainage stock shop department, and otherwise to provide with thereto. An ordinance approving, accepting, and adopting the civil service rule amendments adopted by the Civil Service Commission on September 17, 2019, relative to special overtime provision, civil leave, and declared emergency leave, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Newberry?
An ordinance to amend and as amended, readopt Chapter 17.5, Parks, Recreation, and Parish Facilities, Section 17.5-7 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Fees for Various Facilities and Activities, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes, a resolution authorizing Director Parish President or his designee to deny hunting permits in the Breakaway Park and on the old golf course, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. A resolution creating a policy to receive and process all public requests and complaints, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution establishing a program for residents who have driveways which are in such disrepair that it is difficult for emergency vehicles to access those need of emergency service, and to apply for financial assistance from Community Action Agency, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. McDonald. I have a couple. An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference, in which is a paragraph thereto, with reference to application number 2019-404, dated August 12th, 2019. A resolution denying the requested map change filed by Hero Lands Company from I-3 Heavy Industrial Zoning District to RA1 Single Family Residential Zoning District for lots 2 through 5 on the Planter Estate Subdivision, Danella Drive, Belchase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2019-404, dated August 12th, 2019. An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference thereunto, which references application number 2019-405, dated August 12th, 2019. A resolution denying the requested map change filed by Hero Lands Company from I-3 Heavy Industrial Zoning District to C2 General Commercial Zoning District for Lot 1 of the Planter Estate Subdivision, Woodland Highway, LA 406, and Danella Drive, Belchase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, all in accordance with the application number 2019-405, dated August 12, 2019. All right, with that, item 982, please.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 15 of the Parish Code of Ordinances to establish residential parking Zone A1 on both sides of the entirety of Avenue B and West 2nd Street, and both sides of Avenue A commencing at its intersection with Highway 23, running in an easterly direction to its intersection at Oak Tree Road, to establish a penalty for the violation thereof, to authorize the parish president to have the appropriate signs installed, and issue residential parking permits, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Albro,
As the offer is read.
ask for a second. Ms. Newberry seconds. Mr. Albro.
Yes, I believe I've spoken with y'all, many of y'all on this. It's a public safety issue around the high school. This time of year it's not as bad, but as the year goes on, we have more and more students parking on the streets around the football field in those subdivisions where the safety concerns of ambulance and services cannot fit down the street, trash services as well. Several complaints for multiple years from the residents on this.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from the table? Mr. Kaganovich?
I agree with it, but what we're going to do on Friday nights?
This only is during the daytime hours from 7 to 3. It does not include Friday night football games.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I have a question. Under Section C, no, I'm sorry, Section E, where the residents have a parking permit, is that going to be at no cost to the residents?
Correct. No
So
question.
I guess my question is, should we add at no cost? Maybe some legal advice?
Rennie had helped draft this up. We copied Dr. Gooey's, which doesn't have that as well,
I guess it doesn't matter.
not that I'm aware of. I mean, Dr. Gooey's has been going on for several months now with no issues.
I just wanted to make it clear for the residents that it would be at no cost. That's the only reason why I have questioned it. But otherwise, I do support your ordinance.
Speaking to the microphone, please.
I haven't been briefed on that issue, but I can find out more information for you. I was unaware of the cost for a permit, if that discussion had been had. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the residents had it at no cost, and it's not stated in the ordinance. So I guess I'm offering an amendment to add that at no cost. Corey, would that be a problem, just for future reference? Doesn't matter.
If that's what I need to get it to pass, then that's what we'll do.
Anybody have any objections to that amendment? That would, E, where it says line 2, issue 5-year annual.
Let's go back real quick. All right, Ms. Newberry offers an amendment. Yeah, let's go remove the second.
Remove the second offer.
Offer with changes. What did Ms. Newberry, can you state the changes?
Section E, second line, where it says issue 5-year annual residence parking permits at no cost to persons who either own property or can approve residence in any dwelling on property. And also line 4, temporary residence parking permits not to exceed 6 months may be issued at no cost.
You second with those changes, Ms. Newberry?
I'll second.
Ms. Newberry seconds with the changes. Mr. Russo, you have a comment?
No.
All right, any other questions, comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open. And it passes 9-0. 9-3, please.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Rennie S. Beers, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision lots 5-Y1A through 5-Y1E, Bell Chase Section D by Bryant Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated June 20, 2018, revised August 19, 2019. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Dr. Gooey? Offer, but Dr. Gooey asks for a second. Second, Mr. Albro.
I've gone through this for obvious reasons, and you'll see that we've included the maps and all of the approvals from the respective departments, and everything is in order. I'll answer any questions that anyone may have,
Mr. Russo?
if I can.
The only question I have is that on line 28, it says, any future or now existing non-dedicated streets. The Rock Road is not a dedicated street, or it's a private lane? That's a, go ahead.
Do you know?
Honestly, I'm not sure. If you want me to get that information from the zoning department, Councilman Russo, if you want to come back to this, or I can.
It's not that I want to hold it up, but I want to make it clear, because in that area, we've had litigation, we've had accusations, we've had all kinds of issues about whether this is a public road or a private road. Do we put rocks on it? Do we not put rocks on it? So I want to make sure that I understand what this is, because I know there was litigation a couple of blocks over for draining on that property. So I just want to be clear in my mind. Is it a public street or a private street?
Yeah, can you get the information?
Yes, I will make a phone call, and if you guys want to come back to it.
Pass over.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Albro removes the second, and this will be deferred.
No. Pass it over. I think we can get the
We're going to
information.
come back.
They want to come back to
Same
it.
thing.
Got it. Done.
Item 984.
An ordinance authorizing the parish president to grant utility companies needing servitudes, easements, or rights-of-way for the location, construction, reconstruction, improvements, repairs, operation, inspection, patrol, replacement, and maintenance of utility facilities to service Plaquemines Parish government facilities and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second was Newberry. This is at the request of the administration to make it easier to, without holding up Entergy for 2 to 4 weeks on right-of-way acquisitions or granting of easements. Any questions or comments from the table on this one? Just, go ahead. Mr. Rousseau?
The language is a little vague, but we are talking about parish property, because what it says here is to service PPG facilities is necessary. We could go across 10 people's property of private property to service a government facility, and I wouldn't want to be giving the government permission to do that without council approval if it's on private property. So my only question was where it says utility companies to service PPG facilities is necessary to grant servitudes, easements, and so forth. I know the intention of the administration was to say, look, if it's on parish property or easements or servitudes, that we could grant them permission to go across that property. And I don't have a problem with voting on this as long as we understand that that's where we're going, and not saying, you know, for instance, starting at Barrier Road and going across 15 lots to get to Epsilon, and the parish comes in and signs a servitude without talking to the private owners.
Of course not. That's the intent, is just to limit it to the parish lands.
Okay, so that's what this does.
If you look down to the fourth whereas, it also says over PPG lands. Doesn't mention over private interests. We'd obviously have to get
What line item?
22, sir. Actually, 21, I believe.
Yeah, it says recommended granting of such blanket authority to PPG's president to grant servitude using right of way to utilities owner as needed based over PPG lands and to service PPG facilities.
Correct.
That's the questioning that I have. It's an and to PPG facilities.
I don't have and in mind.
Okay, go ahead. I agree. We're going over Plaquemines Parish government. Got it.
All right, any other questions or comments on this? All right, with none, the machine is open. Passes 9-0. 9B, please.
An ordinance prohibiting anyone who does not rent a slip in a parish boat harbor from utilizing slips in the Empire Boat Harbor during tropical storms and hurricanes, authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to have the harbor masters from Venice, Buras, and Empire ensure only renters are in the harbor tied up to parish docks and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Kagnovich?
Offer for discussion.
Offer discussion only. Second. Mr. Bartholomew, seconds. Mr. Kagnovich?
Yeah, after Barry, I got a bunch of complaints from people from the Buras and Venice boat harbors that went up there to tie up, and all of the slips was taken by people who don't rent. They sit at the shrimp docks in Venice. They don't rent a slip from anybody, and they taking up our slips where a renter from another harbor could use it. And I'm just want to make it where the people that rent from us have the first right to get in that empty slip, that just anybody can't go park in it. They could get inside the locks and tie up wherever they could find, but in our harbor, they can't tie up unless they rent from us.
Any other, Ms. Newberry?
Do we have a full-time port harbor master?
Got a harbor master at each boat harbor.
Are they full-time?
Yeah.
So when we're in a situation like that, should they be there
They-
looking over their own,
There's nothing to do at their own harbor because everybody's evacuating, so they could all be up there, and then you have the 3 people that work on the shipyard that could help them too.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. On the surface, it seems pretty straightforward, and I'm definitely in agreement. We've got people who are diligently paying their harbor bills, and when they get to a safe harbor, when a hurricane is bearing down on them, they don't have anywhere to tie up. Since we are about to receive a grant through the same process as, I don't know if y'all remember the back and forth we had to do with the care center. These two pots of money were in the same grant. So I want to caution before we, create some sort of legislation that we not make things harder on ourselves when dealing with the folks that have sent that funding our way, because they're getting ready to build a number of slips for the express purpose of building a safe harbor in Empire. Just some of the nuts and bolts, when a hurricane is coming down, they've got to prioritize. And I mean, if we create this legislation, it becomes law, are they going to not be at the floodgate and be handling this, or something? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a priority, but when it's an emergency situation like that, I don't know if we have the manpower to do it. But I'm absolutely in agreement that
the floodgate doesn't open and close. He's going to close it at a certain time. So there's 6 of them that could be sitting back there with a list. And if a boat pulls up, they ask the person their name, do you rent from us? And if they say no, well, you're going to have to go find somewhere else to park. And even if it's, let's just say in our boat harbor in Buras, can somebody come and tie up in a slip for free?
Understood. I would like to have legal look at this to make sure we don't go down a road where we went with the care center where supplanting was thrown around, that kind of thing. I just want to make sure everything is good with the state before we would vote.
And in the safe harbor contract with what they're going to build, it says that the slips are ours, but so many of them's for transient boats to tie up in a emergency situation.
Mr. Bartholomew?
The only concern I would have is once a state of emergency is declared, that means just what it is, emergency. And can that override of denial from anyone coming in to park in the spot that's available at that point in time for protection? Now, I think what we ought to do, it's just a suggestion, is to get all the slip boat people lying in the boat with all the rentals and all the paying and sign them up to that harbor. So during the hurricane season, that's they slip, they automatically transfer. They slip to that air, to that marina during the state of emergency. Something like that, I think we protect it more or less, but I don't know, just like you said, I think it's a legal thing you got to really look at under a state of emergency situation.
Then, be here when we
yeah,
do it next
but a
time.
lot of the monies, some of the money we receive are grant monies or maybe federal funding monies. I don't know. All those things have to come into play of looking at it. So you want to be careful not to get us like that.
But we're not stopping them from coming in the harbor.
Huh?
We're not stopping them
I know,
from
but
coming in. They just can't tie up at our dock.
But just make sure that we have that right to deny them. That's all. To make sure.
Can we deny?
I agree with you. Hey, I agree 100%.
If they go tie up today, can we tell them to move?
Huh?
If they tie up today, we could tell them to move, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah. But it's not an emergency. It's not a declared state of emergency. That's the only question. But I
Mr. Helmers?
My only concern is we do have the safe harbor grant going, and we'd like to see, we wouldn't want to see that superseded by an ordinance like this restricting folks to come in to tie up, because it's going to spread out through our harbor. I know there'll be certain boat slips, but we don't want to jeopardize the program until we can research it to make sure we don't lose that grant totally.
we're not stopping them from coming inside the 2 locks. They can,
I understand
they can go
that.
park anywhere they want. They just can't park in our slips unless they want to start renting it.
I would still like to have the chance to research over the grant and talk to the grant administrator about it, make sure that there's no chance of us being in jeopardy of having that grant pulled. We were one of 5 grants out of the whole United States that received this $5 million safe harbor grant to be put inside of the Empire Boat Harbor. So we want to make sure.
And it said that we would be the owner of the slips, but so many of them slips that they're going to build in the new marina have to be for transient boats.
They have to be open to, yes, other boats to come in and tie up.
Mr. Blake?
Yeah, we have almost $5 million on the line here. I just would be very, very cautious as we proceed. And also, I think there needs to be a little mercy baked into this legislation. You know, it's sort of unspoken code of the bayou. If there's a storm, you can go to somebody's camp. If there's something bearing down on you, you know, who are we to turn folks away? And I would hate to see empty slips when there's a hurricane, if that were to be the case.
There won't be empty slips because I got enough complaints from people in Buras and Venice who pay rent that didn't have nowhere to tie up because all these people who don't pay rent. And there's ordinances about that. They're not supposed to tie up at the shrimp docks. They're supposed to go rent a slip in our harbor, but none of that gets pushed. So. I brought it up many a times.
Mark, when we look at the boat harbors in a comprehensive way to get them fiscally solvent, would you want to bake something like this into that legislation? We have a little bit more time.
I've had it on the agenda for 2 meetings already, and I brought it to Mr. Buras because you brought up complaints about it, and he said that he didn't see a problem with it. That's why I just did it for a discussion today, so he could be here next time to say yes or no.
All right, thank you. Any more questions or comments from the table?
Yeah, I just have a suggestion. This is very puzzling. We pay harbor masters. I just have a recommendation that if the council member and maybe administration and harbor master can maybe set up some meetings once a month, quarterly, to smooth out these issues, so we're not up here trying to figure out what's going on. So I think y'all need to get that maybe.
Had a meeting with Don Beschel and all the harbor masters.
Well, I'm sure.
There's one person in Venice that owes over $10,000.
Well,
And in our ordinances, it says we could seize the boat and sell it at auction.
well, get it going.
I can't do it.
I think there's going to be a soon-to-be change in some organizational structure, and maybe Mr. Holmes will be able to get a better result. Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, that'll be deferred. Let's move back to item 9A3, please. Okay, Ms. Marcotte.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Rennie S. Buras, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision Lot 5-Y1A through 5-Y1E, Belchase Section D, by Brandt Hammond Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated June 20, 2018, revised August 19, 2019, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Dr. Gouy offers to ask for a second. Mr. Arbor seconds. Mr. Metcalf, you got the clear up?
Yes, I do. Councilman Roussel, Dr. Gouy, I spoke with the zoning superintendent. She informs me that the ingress and egress is really pretty much equal to a common driveway and is completely private. So.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Russo, any further on that?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with that, the machine is open. It passes 9-0. Let's move down to item 9D, please.
A resolution appointing a council District 6 representative, replacement member to the Plaquemines Recreation Advisory Committee and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Newberry,
I'll offer.
offer and ask for a second. Second, Mr. Kokavich. Ms. Newberry?
This is to replace Shane Shelley with Ryan Martinez on the Recreation Committee.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, machine is open. Passes 9-0. F, please.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan rehab-Bell Chase wastewater treatment plant project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Newberry?
Offer as read.
Offer is read. Ask for a second. Second, Mr. Kokavich. Ms. Newberry?
Which one are we on?
F.
Oh, okay, let's say I deferred that one, okay.
Yeah, wastewater treatment.
This was asked by Jonah to introduce this. This is just, I think we moving water around for a project on the water department. Is that right? We had that discussion. Jonah never got back with me, Todd. Is that just moving money around for the water department?
Yeah, just moving it from the maintenance fund to the capital outlay fund for that project.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the table?
What item are we on?
F, please. F, sir.
I mean, because they got each showing up.
Yes, sir. You got the fur.
I know.
Sorry. Oh,
Are you
okay.
kidding?
No, that's why I was looking.
Yeah, I can't see that screen. I can't see that screen on it. All right, from the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open on item F for clarification. It passes 9-0. Item G, please.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 General Fund Manpower Structure Civil Service Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Albro?
That wasn't G.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah, G. We're on G.
Oh, I'm sorry, read the wrong one. An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 18-36 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
All right, Mr. Albro.
Offer is read.
Ask for a second. Second, Mr. Kokavich.
Yes, this is just to clean up. This was the original ordinance in place that only included one street by the football field, which the one we already voted on supersedes it.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from the table? From the audience? Machine's open. Passes 9-0. I think we got the train back on the track, right? Yeah. Good? All right.
I'm just trying to help us move along, you know? Just trying to help us move along. H, an ordinance to amend the 2019 General Fund Manpower Structure Civil Service Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew? Offer is read. Ask for a second. Second, Mr. Kokavich. Mr. Bartholomew?
I have any questions?
Is this for a new position?
Ms. Newberry?
This is for a new position in the Civil Service Department. Is that because they need help because they're having to go down the road twice a week? Is that correct? Anybody here to answer that?
Anybody from administration?
Have them here next time.
Administration request to be deferred. Mr. Bartholomew?
Mr. Hellman, you want to say something? Okay, we can defer it. I'll just ask.
Yeah, I tell you what, before you defer, do you mind, we have a couple comments, I think?
Yeah, go ahead, that's what I'm
Mr. Russo?
Yes, in light of our financial situation, we're not hiring a whole lot of people. We are hiring some, and I'm concerned about us starting to put positions on the payroll and adding back to the payroll. I know we have one position coming up that we are going to accommodate from a contract that I don't have a problem with, but when we start adding new and continue to start adding new positions, I think that we're going to overload the wagon.
Yeah, I'll second that, Mr. Russo. I think just be cognizant of what positions we are going to be hiring because some of those same positions may be eliminated. Just make sure the prioritization on those positions are the top priority and not just because we have extra money at this time, because we won't have it in 4 months.
I'm going to say we don't have extra money, but what I'm saying is that we went from a hiring freeze for several years to now all of a sudden starting to hire and create positions. And the point I'm making is I introduced an ordinance today to make a loan to try to cover the payroll. I don't know if it's going to pass next meeting, but it's a serious situation that we're facing anytime that we get into where we have to borrow money to make the payroll. So that's my comments.
Mr. Blank? Sorry, sir.
So myself, Councilmember Newberry, and Councilmember Russo met with Civil Service earlier in our term to discuss this very thing, and during the course of the conversation, it was asked, could you do this task with additional software? A piece of software was discussed. The price was out there. It was $16,000, that sort of thing. So any chance there's any opportunity to use automation, we need to look into that. If we could, have a piece of software or a more electronic system of filing, those types of things where efficiencies could be found, that's definitely key. Thanks.
Yeah, I totally agree. Mr. Helmers, I know you're over IT. I think we just hired somebody in IT, so it's another person we hired. Maybe put them to work.
We replaced, it was we had replaced an employee we let go, but we transferred him from telecom position over to IT.
Yeah, my point is that we have somebody now in IT to backfill. Maybe have them look into Mr. Blank's recommendation.
Okay. You would send me an email on that? I'll get that done.
All right, thanks. I think their second's been removed. Mr. Bartholomew wishes to defer at this time.
Yes.
All right.
Matter of fact, I think J is the same ordinance.
Okay, we'll defer J as well.
No, but I think it's the same.
All right, J's withdrawn then. Item I, please.
A resolution confirming the recommendation of the parish president, Kirk M. Lapine, in the appointment of Dr. Cerintha Strickland as a member of the Metropolitan Human Services District Board of Directors representing Plaquemines Parish and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Before I offer, I could have swore we did this one already.
Yeah, we did one other member, and this is an additional member.
But I thought we did Cerintha too, no? All right. All right, offer. Ask for a second. Second, Mr. Blank. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open. It passes 9-0. And my apologies in the audience. Melissa Kennedy is here from LMAP for the update. Instead of holding her up, I'd like to move to that particular item, which is item 10H. Ms. Kennedy, I apologize, but I don't think it was too long of a wait for you, huh?
No worries. I'm just not good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members, for allowing me to speak with you this afternoon. My name is Melissa Kennedy. I'm with HNTB. I'm a consultant for the parish, and I've been working on this project for about the past 5 years or so. I just want to give you an update on the Plaquemines Parish levee system LAMP analysis that FEMA has concluded and where we're going with the new flood insurance rate maps. So just to give you an overview of the agenda, I want to give a little background and history on the project, FEMA's analysis and their mapping approach to the new maps, overall schedule that was provided by FEMA and where we are today and where we need to go to. The appeals process that we're going to be starting here soon. I want to talk a little bit about that so you understand what that means. The next steps, and then a brief cursory overview of the insurance impacts related to the new upcoming firm maps. So just to give a little background and history, this project started, like I said, it started probably about 7 years ago. The LAMP program, it's a levee analysis and mapping procedure. What this is was a new procedure pilot program instituted by FEMA that allows FEMA to include non-accredited levies in their evaluation. Their previous analysis, if a levy system was non-accredited, they did their analysis just assuming it did not exist. So this was a pilot program that allowed them to redo the analysis, taking into account this levy system. The overall objective was to update the flood risks associated with these levees, develop the new maps, and then based on these new maps, have allow the insurance industry to adjust the rates based on the true risk. So since I've been involved, again, it's been about 5 years, FEMA completed their preliminary analysis back in probably about 2016. I think it was March 2016 when we had one of our review meetings. Subsequent to that, we probably had 10 review meetings back and forth on the analysis, comments from the parish, incorporating those comments, et cetera. So basically what FEMA did, and if you look at this map, their new mapping approach, it takes into account the accredited system in the northern area, which is the HISDR system, and then they did an approach down for the rest of the parish where we have non-accredited back levees along the parish. So this method, what they use is called the Natural Valley method. And what you're seeing on this map are what we call transects or cross sections through the system that FEMA utilized and did analysis, including surge and wave break, to come up with the new base flood elevations. The white transects lines as shown on the map are from their 2008 original analysis, which they then added more transects in 2016 to get better representation of the overall parish. Now, I will tell you that we did have concerns in the Jesuit Bend area. We did not necessarily agree with the analysis that FEMA did in that area because we think the base flood elevations are a little too high. However, the FEMA outlined two options to utilize to object to this. One was the appeals process, and the other is for the parish to institute go on through the process of developing a LOMAR, a letter of map revision. So unfortunately, FEMA came out with new regulations on the appeal process, which basically said there's a 90-day appeal period in which you have to submit all your information, data, background, et cetera, for why you object, and then they have time to incorporate it and address that all within the 90-day period. They recognize that that's practically impossible to do, so going forward, we're going to work on preparing a LOMAR as part of the Jesuit Bend project. So this is a general schedule from FEMA. This was provided by FEMA on this overall process for getting the new maps. On the left-hand side is where they completed their analysis. Then they have to do a meeting with the parish administration to explain the process. Then they have to put a notice in the Federal Register. And I put on there where we are now. They've done that, and now they have to put two notices in the newspaper, one which should have been done Monday, and one's going to be next week. And then we have the appeals process 90 days. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But after the appeals process, then FEMA issues what is called a letter of final determination. That basically says we're done with everything, we know what the maps say, and then from that point on, the parish has 6 months for an adoption. And why they allow 6 months is because there may be need for ordinances to be revised based on the new mapping. And I did talk to Mr. Metcalf, and there will be some minor revisions to the ordinances as a result of this. So, as I said, where we are today, this map shows just a general change in the flood zones and what they are going to be. The green is a V velocity zone. The purple's also a velocity zone. The light blue is AE, and they kind of gave a blow-up area of Belle Chase area there on the bottom. Some of the area has now been taken out of the flood zone. So again, this stuff has been finalized. FEMA finished the analysis. They have the preliminary maps up on the website, and I'll give you the address for that. They completed the FIS study as well. The notice for the Federal Register went in July 19th. They sent a letter to the parish on September 3rd outlining that the appeals process is going to start soon. And as I said, 2 notifications are required in the Plaquemines Gazette. One was supposed to be done Monday. Mike, I don't know if that was actually done or not. I had not been able to confirm. It was in there. And the next one they said would be in there on Tuesday. And once that goes in the Plaquemines Gazette, the 90-day appeals period starts. So what does this appeals process mean? As I said earlier, it's an opportunity for the community, the public, to comment on what FEMA has done. There's 2 things you can do. You can comment, which is just a general item that you have regarding the map that's more of an administrative thing, like there's a road name wrong, parish line's not right, or community name's wrong, something like that, a misspelling that people notice, that they can submit that to FEMA, and FEMA will make those corrections. The other one, as I talked about, is more formal written objection, either to a base flood elevation, a flood zone, the limits, the flood depth, et cetera, or a regulatory floodway boundary, which actually does not apply in this case. If you have a technical objection, you have to be able to provide the analysis as to why you object to that and to show FEMA why they may be wrong. If you do that, all those technical type objections and information has to go through the parish to FEMA. An individual cannot just say, I don't like the answer, and submit that to FEMA. There has to be a background and information provided as to why. So the next steps, again, we're going into this appeal period here soon. I recommend that people go on to the FEMA website, review the new maps, review the FIS study. It's at that address given above. And also they have another website where you can actually review the changes from the proposed preliminary maps coming up as opposed to the effective maps. And I want to stress that's the effective maps, which are from 1993, not the preliminaries that you are working with at this point in time. And that website is www.riskmap6.com. When you go to that website, you can click on there's a map, click on Louisiana, type in Plaquemines Parish, and it will bring you into an interactive GIS system in which you can either look at the effective maps, which are 1993. You can look at the updated preliminary maps, which are 2016, based on their 2016 analysis, and this is what they're going for at this point in time. And then there's a section where you can look on the changes. So there's lots of little things you can do. You can zoom into a particular area. You can zoom out to the whole parish. So this gives people an opportunity to see how is that going to affect them individually. And why is that important? Because it's going to affect their insurance rates. The other thing that I'm stressing here today is to make sure your residents and constituents know what's going to be happening. This can be through the parish website, newsletters, fact sheets, handouts, public meetings, etc. There's a handbook that FEMA is on their website, and I put the website there. It's called Risk Communications Guidelines. It's a document that helps people provide that information to the public. It includes examples of things, how to do a meeting, etc. And so the whole point of this, again, is that people's flood risks are going to change. And so we're encouraging that people know what that is and that they can make adjustments to insurance before those maps become effective. So I want to preface this part that I am not an insurance agent and I'm not an FIP expert. But I do know that if the base flood elevations change or your zone changes, that your insurance could be impacted. In some areas, people are going to be taken out of a flood zone, in which case insurance may not be required. However, in this parish, I always recommend insurance be required. In areas there's going to be, your BFEs are going to be higher. So if you have insurance based on a lower BFE now, you'll be grandfathered in for a time. If you do not have insurance, or your BFE is going to be higher and your rate would go higher, they recommend that you get insurance now at the lower rate so that you can take advantage of that grandfathering. Now, the grandfathering does not last in perpetuity. It will be changed yearly. Again, I'm not an expert, so I don't know all the idiosyncrasies of insurance, but the whole point is we want people to know so that they can make adjustments now to get as much benefit as they can. And that's what I have to say. Questions?
Thank you, I appreciate it, I do. If you don't mind, can you resend the presentation and the link, the FEMA link?
Sure.
For us to
Sure.
the Council Secretary for distribution?
Sure.
All right, thanks a lot. Mr. Russo?
Yes, so in your work, you've concentrated on outside of the 100-year protection, correct?
Correct.
So all of these comments are relevant to outside of the 100-year protection?
The comments could be on the whole DFIRM's map. So the whole parish has been remapped. So it can be on any part of the parish. It can be in the HISRA systems as well.
And the new maps that they put out for 2019 for the HISRA system, that's what we're talking about again?
That is, it's the entire parish.
So, yeah, I'm stuck on partial adoptions, but my argument is now fastly eroding because of the fact that we've waited so long, and that now they're going to actually be looking at individual properties under the new legislation if it's passed the way that some of these bills are drafted. And so if we go in that direction, the grandfathering rule for those who are outside of the system, do you have any idea how long that rate might last?
I think the rate will last a year and then it's going to change. But I was looking, the manual they have is like 400 pages long. So I tried to glean some basic information from that. But they say a year, but then there is also in there something about every January 1st it could change. So I don't know if that first year is really a year or it's up to when you get to January 1st that would change. So I'm not clear on that. So that's why I said we need to talk to either a FEMA, NFIP specialist or insurance agent.
And I guess one more question would be, do we have a drop dead date as to when we have to adopt the parish-wide maps?
It will be set based on this letter of final determination. They will put the date in there, which will be 6 months from the date of the issuance of that letter. Again, 6 months, I know it seems like a long time. That's their process. So it'll be probably then, if it's 6 months plus the 90 days of the appeals, we're at 9 months from probably next week. That's when they become effective.
And we don't have to do anything?
You don't have to do anything.
They're going to be effective without our actions?
You have to make sure your ordinances are in compliance with what's shown on the new map. That's why there's the 6 months, what's called 6 month adoption period. It gives the parish 6 months to get their ordinances in line to make sure they're in agreement with what's shown on the maps.
So within 9 months from now, we should
Correct.
be adopting some changes in our floodplain ordinance?
Correct.
Have you been keeping up with the bills in Congress?
I haven't been in detail. I know there are bills in there, and I know they've been talking about changing the requirements on the flood insurance program. I don't know all the details.
So we're operating under what's today, but if they, in the next 90 days, adopt a 5-year plan, will you have to relook at that?
I can't answer that. I think that would have to be a FEMA question.
Or I'm talking about as a consultant for the parish.
Will I have to do what then? Will I have?
Look at the new congressional act to evaluate, all of this information's evaluating on what we're under correctly now.
It depends on what FEMA comes back and says, whether they have to change it, in which case then yes, I would probably help evaluate that, or if that gets grandfathered in, I don't know what they're going to do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Skoganovich?
I haven't been to the meetings in a while, but I know back when I was going, elevation in Buras and Venice was about 16 feet. You had to elevate your property. And I don't know about all over the country, but in New York, Florida, how high do they have to go up?
In New York, I can't answer that. I don't know.
From community to community, it's not hard to say. Generally speaking, the same rules and regulations are applied across the board because it's a national program, but, you know, geographically, we all vary from state to state and area to area. It's kind of hard to say, but as a coastal parish, from some of the other coastal parishes, not only in our state, but along the Gulf Coast, I can tell you, Councilman, it's pretty typical what we're seeing with the new maps.
I know the Hurricane Sandy in New York, then Florida. I haven't seen a levee up there in Florida all my life since I've been going over there, and here we got them 22 feet. Now I got to build up 16 feet.
Well, I think the upside from my view is that we were very concerned, people in the 100-year floodplain, the 1% annual, which is everything north of the Jesuit Bend, the flood wall on the West Bank, we weren't so concerned about, because in a lot of areas, the elevations actually get better and easier for communities, and insurance rates stand to get better, not worse. But naturally, we've been very concerned about the people south of the flood wall all the way down to Venice on the West Bank and the entire East Bank, what's going to happen there. And I just want to applaud Melissa personally, as a floodplain manager, for not only doing an awesome job with this whole thing, but doing some really encouraging research, because after Biggert Waters and all of that federal legislation kind of went down the tubes and was retooled and redesigned and reconceptualized, it's been very hard for us to keep a handle on what was going to happen with any grandfathered in pre-existing non-conforming rates as far as insurance. And it's just encouraging to me to know that the people in your areas that are south of the wall and on the East Bank will have an opportunity to, at least for some period of time, enjoy grandfathered in rates rather than actuarial rates, which is what we were looking at before, which could have been astronomical. So the word is from, of course, an NFIP perspective and a local floodplain management perspective is buy insurance now. Because if you don't, and I'm sure Melissa would agree, you're going to put yourself maybe in some sort of a grandfathered in status, but we're not sure what that would be. So the safest way to do it is to protect yourself in those areas and get your lowest possible rates would be to, if you don't have insurance, to purchase it now. That's your best case scenario.
I have it, but you know, like the elevation, John's district, I think at the time it was 21 feet. So if I'm elevating a house 21 feet, who's paying for the lights? Because now the bottom of the house is 21 feet, let's say another 20 feet to the tip of the roof, I got to worry about planes and helicopters hitting me.
But optimal rates for insurance, at least, because you're in compliance.
Now my flood's going to go down, but my wind's going higher. Because now I'm above the levee, I'm above the trees, and the wind's going to hit me.
Yeah, that does change a little bit from a building code perspective, there's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. Melissa, do other features besides levees play into these charts? For instance, dunes, coastal restoration projects, things like that?
Yes. So when FEMA originally submitted their analysis, that's one of the things we looked at very carefully. When I showed you those transects, we looked at the coding that they used all along those transects, and we objected to a lot of it based on some of the coastal restoration work that had been going on. So we were able to work with them to change some of that, which then helps the waves, reduction in waves, so that you don't have as much overtopping. So yes, we looked at all of that.
Okay. As these maps have changed in the past, do you think they could also change in the future? For instance, there are two big planned sediment diversions for the area. If some marshes are built and willow trees start to propagate, they'll serve as a sort of three-dimensional biological barrier to knock down storm surge and waves in front of the levees. Do you think that can be evaluated and play into these maps in the future?
Yes. Yes, you can always, once the maps become effective, you can always go back and relook at it. And if there's new information that allows you to do a new analysis that provides better baseflood elevations or lower baseflood elevations, you can always submit for a LOMAR. Again, the LOMAR process is it's not quick. It does take a couple years as well, but there is a process for making adjustments.
And I want to tie in, as I have at least 2 other times here, that it's going to be a good practice for our floodplain manager, our coastal restoration department, and the land department to be working hand in hand, to be meeting at least monthly to discuss those sort of synergies, if not co-located in the same building, that kind of thing, as a team, as almost a resiliency department, because this is one of the most important things that we have to get through. If we can't ensure this place, no new development happens and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's crucial. Y'all are working very, very closely together.
Mr. Kognovich?
With the map changes, if you coastal restoration and all, if I build these 2 diversions, are they going to take into effect that the Mississippi Gulf outlet inundated St. Bernard? So now I'm going to have to lower my standards again in Plaquemines?
I'm not quite sure I understand the
Is
question.
FEMA going to look at the Mississippi Gulf outlet, which brought in all the water to St. Bernard? Now I'm going to have 2 in Plaquemines bringing in twice the water.
I don't know. FEMA does this on a very rarely basis. So again, they're not going to, once the maps become effective, we probably won't hear from them again for probably another 10, 15, 20 years. So I can't answer that. I mean, it could be relooked at that time. I mean, so I'm assuming CPRA is looking at all that as part of the diversion project.
There you go. Finally, it came out. People seem like they were lost.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Any other comments from the table, from the audience? All right, Ms. Kennedy, I appreciate it. Thank you. Just send that to Ms. Toops if you would.
Okay.
All right. 1081.
A resolution assigning office space in the Percy Griffin Community Center, 15577 Highway 15, Davant, Louisiana, to the Justices of the Peace for District 1, Wards 2 and 3, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Offered on the suspension. Can I have a second? Second by Mr. Kognovich. Mr. Bartholomew, this is on a suspension. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, it's just to give the Justice of Peace a space for office, because they don't have any at this time. And we do have office space at the Davant Community Center. That's the bottom of it.
Any other questions or comments on the suspension? All right, with none, the machine's open on the suspension. All right, suspension passes 8 with 1 abstention. All right, now back to the resolution itself.
A resolution assigning office space in the Percy Griffin Community Center, 15577 Highway 15, Davant, Louisiana, to the Justices of the Peace for District 1, Wards 2 and 3, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
All from Mr. Bartholomew. Any second? Second, Mr. Kognovich. Any questions or comments? All right, with none, the machine is open.
Councilmember Blank.
Mr. Blink?
And it passes 6-0 with 3 abstentions. All right, item 1082.
A resolution authorizing the parish president and directing the parish president or his designee to issue a key for the Percy Griffin Community Center to Councilmember John Bartholomew and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Bartholomew?
Time out. Okay, at the request of the council members, we want to put that to the next council meeting at Davant. council meeting, introduce this for legislation to be voted on at the next council meeting, the event. And it is for office space for my office that I still have. That's what is needed. And I do have material in there that I can't get to because I don't have a key. So if you're short of something, that's the way it is.
All right, we'll move back to item 8 then, if you want to introduce that.
Yeah.
All right, back to item 8. You mind, Ms. Marcotte, reading that for introduction for Mr. Bartholomew?
A resolution assigning office space in the Percy Griffin Community Center, 15577 oops, wait, wrong one. Sorry. A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to issue a key for the Percy Griffin Community Center to council member John Bartholomew and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Council office.
Can you add that to the?
Yeah, add that to that, because that's what it is.
All right, that's fine.
All right?
All right, that's as read. Thank you. All right, 10B, District 1 update, Mr. Bartholomew, and also discussion by Craig Laurie regarding the drainage issues along Highway 39.
I'd like to wait till the president come back to deal with all these issues on the East Bank.
All right.
Since he's not here, we'll just wait till he gets back to deal with all these problems that we have.
All right, yes, sir. We'll
All
do
right,
deferred.
thank you.
Mr. Kognovich, item C, Direct District 9 update, 1 through 5, boat harbors, grass cutting, signs, ditches, Highway 11 drainage, by the museum.
I was going to thank Mr. Morgan, but I see he left 'cause handling a water problem the other night. And I'd like to thank Todd for fixing the fence by Harvey Park in Venice. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on that from the table, from the audience? All right, with none, District 7 update, Mr. LaFrance.
Just want to thank Mr. Zopp for giving me an update on Post Self Library. Hopefully everything goes smoothly and we'll be working back on the Post Self Library in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. LaFrance?
Yes.
All right, any other questions, comments on that? All right, with none, item E, Mr. Russo, District 5 update, drainage project status from FEMA, update on automated water meter reading.
Am I rubbing off on you, Bo?
I think so, Ms. Marcotte.
I think we've already had the update on a water meter reading issue, and as far as the drainage FEMA project, Mr. Dugas returned my call yesterday, thank him, and he gave me an update. Thank you very much. Put it on the agenda.
Any questions or comments on that? All right, with none, District 8 update, Mr. Blink.
I'll pass. I took care of that earlier. Thank you.
All right, that'd be deferred. District 6 update, Ms. Newberry.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and issue an update. We've had some drainage issues actually in District 6 and District 8 with Mr. Blank here. I was able to get with engineering. We found some money in our Jesuit Bend drainage, and we are going to repair some holes that we have between Adam and Rue Poche and Regina and Jesuit Bend, I believe, in the Jesuit Bend area. I'm sorry, Jason Drive and Regina. So we are in the engineering phase of in repair of the drainage from 23 all the way down to the canal. So it's going to be a pretty big project, and hopefully it'll relieve some of the problems on the east side of 23 also. So once that drainage is fixed, so we are in the engineering phase, so it's it'll probably be a couple of months before we get started, hopefully. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Mr. Blink?
Yes, certainly. In those same discussions, we got with Representative Leopold, and currently today there is a vac truck on LA 23 blowing out culverts. It's been on location here and there for the last couple of weeks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blank. Any questions from the table, from the audience? All right, with none, Mr. Burris has been extremely busy, so I'll go ahead and defer item 10I. Item 11, approval of the minutes of the August 22nd, 2019 meeting. Offer Mr. Bartholomew, ask for a second. Mr. Gooey seconds. Any questions or comments? Machine is open. Dr. Gouy? It passes 8-0. Do you have a motion to adjourn? Offer from Mr. Bartholomew, ask for a second. Second, Mr. Blank. Questions, comments? None. Machine is open. Passes 8-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:55. Thank you.